They told me not to camp near Deadman's Hollow. Locals get superstitious about these things. Old men with tobacco-stained beards muttering about bad ground. I figured it was folklore. Or maybe they just didn't want another city guy tearing up their backwoods. Either way, I ignored them. Stupid. I took a week off in early April, wanting to get off the grid. Just me, my gear, and the sound of nothing. I headed south from Louisville, deep into Kentucky backcountry. Followed an old trail past Buckner's Ridge until it disappeared into ferns and damp moss. My target was a clearing near a creek I'd seen on a topo map, totally isolated, a few miles from the nearest dirt road. Perfect. I got there just before sunset. The place was even better than expected. Thick forest, soft mossy ground, and the creek bubbling clear and cold over smooth stones. I pitched my tent under an old hickory, set up a fire ring, and cracked a beer. It was quiet in a good way. That changed fast. As I was gathering wood, I noticed something weird. A dead rabbit laid out on a flat stone by the creek. Not chewed up, not injured, just stiff and clean, like someone had placed it there gently. Its head was turned toward the woods. I just chalked it up to a bird of prey or some local kid playing around. I nudged it into the bushes and forgot about it. That night, the forest felt different. The frogs fell silent early. The air got colder, fast. I crawled into my sleeping bag and shut my eyes around 10. At 1:42 a.m., I woke up. There was no wind, no rustling, just stillness. Then I heard footsteps. Crunch, crunch, slow, deliberate, circling my tent. They moved around me, one step at a time, always staying just outside the tent fabric. "Hello?" I whispered, hand already sliding toward my flashlight. No answer. I unzipped the tent as quietly as I could and poked my head out. The moon was bright enough to see the clearing. Nobody. But the rabbit was back, but now right in front of the tent. Same position, same unblinking eyes. I sat up the rest of the night with a knife across my lap, the fire long gone cold. In the morning, the rabbit was gone again. I thought I was being paranoid from lack of sleep, and the forest was playing tricks on my mind. I forced myself to eat, hiked a few miles upriver to fish, but couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every time I turned around, I thought I saw a pale blur dart behind a tree, but there was never anything there. When I got back, my tent flap was unzipped. My food and gear were untouched, but my journal was lying open by the fire pit, pages fluttering. My printed photos, family, friends, camping trips were spread out across the ground. Someone had drawn on them. In every photo, a thin red stick figure stood in the background, just behind me. I wanted to believe it was some backwoods prank, maybe a creepy hermit living nearby, but something deep in my gut told me otherwise. That night, I just sat under the tree, knife in hand, heart thumping in my throat. Around 3 a.m. I heard whispering, not in English or any language I recognized. It was low, breathy, wet, like someone gargling syllables just out of reach of understanding. I held my breath. Then came the lights, 6 of them, bluish, soft, flickering, hovering between the trees. They circled once, then blinked out, and something stepped into the clearing. I don't even know how to describe it. 7 feet tall, at least. Skin like rotting parchment stretched tight across its frame. Its arms hung too long. No eyes, just pits where they should have been. Its mouth was a gaping black hole filled with rows of jagged teeth, stretching nearly down its chest. It sniffed the air, head jerking side to side like a dog scenting a trail. Then it turned toward me and smiled. I ran and didn't look back. I sprinted through trees and thorns, falling more than once, scraping my palms raw. I don't know how long I ran, maybe an hour. Eventually, I hit the old logging road and followed it until I reached my truck. I drove barefoot, shaking, branches still stuck in my hoodie, all the way back to town. I didn't tell anyone, not right away. What could I say? Hey, I saw a monster in the woods, and now my photos are haunted? But then things got worse. 2 days later, a box showed up on my doorstep. No return address. Inside was the rabbit, stiff, glassy-eyed, its body beginning to rot. Underneath was my journal. The pages were blank now, except one. Someone had scrawled the word mine over and over in red ink until the pen had carved through the paper. I started hearing the whispers again, in the shower, in my closet, sometimes under the bed. Last night, I turned on my phone's camera and snapped a photo of myself in the mirror. Behind me was the thing grinning. Deadman's Hollow isn't just cursed. Something lives there. Don't ever go, or it will get you too. There were 4 of us, or at least that's what we thought. Me, Kevin, Josh, and Brian. College friends, close for years, though life had scattered us to different corners of the country. Last October, we finally planned a weekend together. A remote hike in the Pacific Northwest, in the real wilderness, off-grid. No phones, just nature, fire, and friendship. Brian picked the spot, some deep, secluded forest in Washington state, where the trees are so tall they block out half the sky. We met at a trailhead, loaded our packs, and hiked 6 miles in. The first night, we set up camp in a clearing surrounded by thick Douglas firs. The air smelled like wet moss and pine sap. We laughed, grilled sausages, drank cheap bourbon. It felt good, familiar. And that's when he showed up.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
A voice called from the trail. We turned. There was a guy standing there, lean, dark hair under a gray beanie. Smiling like he knew us, Josh said,
"Dude, you made it."
They bro-hugged. Kevin clapped him on the back. Brian grinned.
"Wasn't sure you'd find it,"
Josh said. I just stood there. I didn't recognize him at all. He introduced himself as Mark, said he'd gone to school with us. Same dorm, 2nd floor.
Come on, you remember me.
He said to me. I didn't. I really didn't. But everyone else acted like he'd always been part of the group. Josh even said,
"He's the one that dared me to climb the bell tower, remember?"
and laughed. I forced a nod. Figured, maybe I just forgot. Maybe I should remember. That night, Mark told stories by the fire. Deep cuts, old inside jokes, things we'd done freshman year. But every time I looked at him, something felt off, like the details were too perfect. Like he'd memorized them, not lived them. Around midnight, I pulled Josh aside. Who is he really? He gave me a weird look.
"You okay?"
I don't remember him at all, I swear. Josh's face shifted.
"Man, you seriously don't? He was at your 21st. He threw up in your laundry hamper."
I laughed nervously. That wasn't him. That was Nolan. Josh frowned.
"No, that was Mark."
Back at the fire, Mark was staring into the flames, lips moving silently. It made me uneasy. On the second day, the weirdness ramped up. I found Mark's pack near a fallen log. It was empty. There was no sleeping bag or food, just leaves, stuffed inside like insulation. No clothes, no ID, not even a water bottle. I asked Josh about it. He said,
"He probably hasn't unpacked yet."
That night Mark didn't eat, just sat with us, smiling. When I finally worked up the nerve to ask him where he lived now, he tilted his head.
You know where?
I didn't press. Later, I watched Mark walk out into the woods. He had no flashlight, no coat, and he just melted into the dark. I waited for an hour. He never came back. Next morning, I told the others. He left. We should go. Josh blinked at me.
What are you talking about? He made breakfast. Bacon and eggs. You were still asleep.
I wasn't. I didn't smell bacon. I didn't see him. That day, I kept glancing over my shoulder as we hiked to a lake. Every time I looked, Mark was there, too close behind me, not talking, not sweating, and not blinking. I finally snapped. I need you all to be honest. Who is he? But they all stared at me. Mark stood perfectly still. His smile never wavered. Josh said,
Dude, you brought him? You invited him? You messaged us about him months ago?
I shook my head violently. No, I didn't. I don't know him. I swear to God. Then Josh said something I'll never forget.
We only came because you said Mark would be here.
It hit me like a punch to the chest. They were all looking at me like I was the crazy one. That night, I pretended to sleep. When I finally opened the tent in the morning, Mark was gone. The others didn't seem to notice or care. It was like he'd never been there. Back at the trailhead, I checked my phone, searched every message, every group chat, every email. No mention of Mark, not once. As we said our goodbyes, I said to the guys that we should do it again without Mark. They all looked at me weirdly. It seemed none of them knew of Mark, and they didn't remember him being on this trip. I was relieved the weekend was over and glad to get home. But as I walked through the front door, my girlfriend called out to me,
Honey, Mark is on the phone for you.
I'm not the kind of guy who scares easy. Spent most of my adult life hiking through woods, camping alone in all seasons. Something about being cut off from cell towers and traffic noise just resets my brain. My friends think it's weird, but I don't care. I like the silence. Or rather, I used to like the silence. Last October, I packed my gear and drove 3 hours up into the Smoky Mountains. I'd found a quiet glade years ago, just a mile off any marked trail, surrounded by tall pines and a creek that murmured low like a lullaby. I set up my one-man tent, built a fire, and settled in for what I expected to be another peaceful weekend. First night, all was well. Cool air, owls calling far off, the fire crackling like a warm heartbeat. I dozed off by 10 p.m., the fire down to embers. Around 2:30 a.m., I woke up. Something wasn't right. Not a sound. No wind, no insects, no rustle of leaves. The kind of silence that has weight, like a vacuum. I sat up in my sleeping bag, suddenly hyper-aware of my own breathing. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. At first, I thought it was a trick of the moonlight filtering through the mesh top of my tent, but as my eyes adjusted, I saw a shape standing at the edge of the clearing, tall, thin, wrong. It was watching me. I couldn't make out a face, just the outline, like it was carved from the night itself. I stayed frozen. Every instinct screamed at me not to move. Then it stepped back into the trees without a sound. I told myself it was just a tree stump, or maybe a deer standing upright in the dark, but I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. Daylight didn't help much. The woods felt off. I couldn't explain it. The air was colder, the forest quieter, like everything was holding its breath. I almost packed up then and there. But pride is a stupid thing. I didn't want to admit to myself that a shadow had shaken me that badly. Second night, I made the fire bigger, kept it roaring well past midnight. I even hung some old camp bells on a string between 2 trees, figuring if something was creeping around, I'd hear it. At 3:11 a.m., I woke to the bells jangling softly. I grabbed my flashlight, unzipped the tent, and stepped out barefoot. The fire had died again, leaving only a faint glow. I swept the beam of my flashlight around the clearing. Nothing. No wind, no sound. Then I heard it. Not from the trees, but from above. A slow creaking, like something heavy shifting in the highest branches. I tilted the light up. All I saw were pine needles and empty limbs. Then my flashlight flickered and went dead. Complete blackness swallowed me. I backed toward the tent, heart hammering, ears straining, and then I heard it breathe, right behind me. Wet, rattling, deliberate. I spun, arms flailing, but hit nothing. I dove into the tent, zipped it shut, and just sat there in the dark, clutching my useless flashlight like it could protect me. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. The next morning, I found something hanging over my fire pit. A string of bones, a rabbit, squirrel, maybe a bird, tied together with what looked like deer's sinew, swaying gently from a branch. I packed. Fast. Didn't eat. Didn't even douse the embers. I was halfway down the ridge when I realized I hadn't heard a single bird call all morning. Back at my truck, I found something etched into the hood. 3 long, jagged lines, like claw marks, deep enough to scratch the metal. No animals I know of would do that. I didn't tell anyone. Not at first. Then the dream started. Same forest, same clearing, same thing standing just at the edge, watching, always watching. And every time I dream it, it gets closer. I tried burning sage, sleeping with lights on, got rid of all my camping gear. It didn't stop. 2 nights ago, I found pine needles scattered in my apartment hallway. My front door was locked, deadbolt too, no sign of a break-in. And last night, I heard the bells, the ones I left in the forest. They rang from my kitchen, just once, clear as anything. I haven't been back to the woods, won't go again, but I don't think it matters now, because whatever I saw out there followed me home. And it's still watching me. I hadn't seen most of these guys since college. A reunion hike, they called it. A 4-day backpacking trip through the Bitterroot Range in Montana. 5 of us. Me, Sam, Logan, Drew, and Charlie. We were all in our 30s now, with jobs, kids, and bad knees. But for one long weekend, we wanted to feel like we used to. Invincible, untouchable, just guys in the woods. We didn't feel that way for long. The trail was barely marked. Drew, our self-appointed guide, said it hadn't been maintained since the pandemic.
That's the charm.
He grinned, holding the map sideways like a clown. By the second day, we were deep in unfamiliar terrain. Huge pine stands, steep ridgelines, and a silence that felt unnatural. I mean, I've camped a lot, and the woods are never truly quiet. But this was weird. No birds, no bugs, just wind, and that strange low hum that made your ears ring when you stopped walking. "We're off trail," I said flatly.
We aren't.
Drew insisted.
It curves north here. See this ridge?
Sam checked his GPS. No service. We all stood there, sweating, packs heavy, realizing none of us really knew where the hell we were. That night, we camped near a ravine. The trees were packed in too tight to pitch tents, so we hammocked between trunks. The fire didn't want to catch, and once it did, the smoke blew straight into our faces no matter where we sat. Logan said,
"This place feels wrong."
he wasn't a superstitious guy. Former Army Ranger, rock solid, but his voice shook when he said it. That made us nervous. We joked to ease the tension, passed around whiskey, and eventually fell asleep. Around 2 a.m., I woke to what sounded like whispering. I thought someone was talking in their sleep, but the sound wasn't coming from the hammocks, it was coming from the trees, murmuring, low, overlapping, like 20 voices whispering at once from all directions. I sat up in my hammock and held my breath. Logan sat up too. Then we saw something move. Across the ravine, between the trees, a shape glided past, tall, thin, almost human. But it didn't walk. It floated, like its feet never touched the ground. Logan and I looked at each other, and when we looked back, it was gone. The next morning, Charlie was missing. His hammock was empty, gear untouched, boots still there. We searched the ravine, calling his name, but the woods swallowed our voices like fog. Drew wanted to press on,
He probably wandered off to take a dump or something. We'll find him.
but Logan and I knew better. Charlie never left without his boots. Ever. We argued. Sam suggested splitting up. I didn't want to, but Drew and Sam went anyway, following the creek north. Logan and I stayed behind to search the southern edge, closer to the ridge. That was the last time I saw Drew and Sam alive. By nightfall, Logan and I had set up camp again, this time without a fire. We didn't want to attract attention. From what, we weren't sure, but that feeling, that watched feeling, had gotten worse. I asked Logan what he thought he saw the night before. He looked at me, stone-faced.
It wasn't human, was it?
We sat in silence. Then we heard it, a voice, close, just outside the ring of light from our headlamps.
Guys?
It was Drew. We both stood up fast. Relief hit me like a wave. Drew? Where's Sam? No answer. Drew? There was a pause. Then his voice again. But this time, it was wrong. Too flat.
Guys? I found the trail.
Then it repeated, exactly the same, like a recording glitch.
Guys? I found the trail.
Logan grabbed my arm.
Get in the tent. Don't look.
I didn't understand, but I listened. The thing moved past our camp. I saw the silhouette through the nylon. Too tall, arms too long. It stopped and stood there for a long time. Then it walked away backward, still facing us. It took Logan and me the entire next day to climb to higher ground. We finally got a faint signal on his emergency beacon. SAR found us the following afternoon, dehydrated, babbling, barely able to explain what happened. They never found Charlie, or Drew, or Sam. But here's the worst part, and I've never told anyone this. Last week, I got a voicemail. Unknown number. Static. Faint whispering behind it, and then clearly.
Guys? I found the trail.